I'm not gonna pretend like I'm not making this video solely to ride the algorithm. It worked when I did it with murder drones. I have made it very clear that I do not care about anything Illumination related. In the past, I treated them as a vehement enemy of animation, but given some worse films have been made, plus that their studio's legacy is not even in the top 500 things I have the time to worry about, I've just grown a general bland eye roll attitude towards them, and especially the very first Mario movie. While it generated a lot of heated discourse at the time, I truly did not care for it. And seeing everyone come to terms with how bland it is now, I'm over here thinking, look at that, I was right all along. But when the Galaxy movie was announced, something strange happened. A part of me was genuinely holding on to the hope of this movie being something special. Not a masterpiece, good lord, Illumination is not capable of that. But I did see a possibility of this genuinely meaning something. If it was based on Galaxy, one of the most emotionally rich stories in the mainline Mario games, there was hope that this would do something none of the other Illumination movies have done before. Have the courage to tell a meaningful story to kids that will stick with them. And it did not do that. In fact, on most fronts, it is noticeably worse than the first movie. Immediately, what I will say is that it is a beautiful movie. Illumination's animation is usually on point, though they are consistently saturated in weird character designs and disgusting motion blur, which is disorienting and nauseating at points. But thankfully, like the first movie, this doesn't do any of that. The environments are well done, the inverted planet casino location is a neat bit of show don't tell of how the location works. And I do love the final visual with Bowser and Bowser Jr., especially Jr.'s whole Sunshine X Fury situation going on. Like the first movie, it's really good at making the world of the games seem like a living, breathing place, though I'm not sure if this is much different than what Odyssey and some of the RPG games have already accomplished. Donald Glover as Yoshi is fun because he actually tried and succeeded, the score is great, and I didn't have to hear as many copyrighted songs as before. Also, when Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, and Bowser were stranded on a planet together, I was reminded that Heroes of the Stars exists, and that's nice. But that is really all I can give this movie credit for. The issues with pacing and haphazard storytelling is more prevalent here than in the original movie, and the dialogue is still very Illumination. If you were to remove the context of these being Nintendo characters, these characters have zero personality aside from maybe Bowser, which was not nearly the case in the first film. You were able to get crumbs of who these characters are, but here, Toad is barely in this, Yoshi doesn't have much to do other than the dinosaur scene, which is bullcrap. Mario and Luigi don't have any distinguishing factors between the two and barely feel like the title characters. Peach is the only one actually doing anything with the minimal level of interest she has, and despite that she is the Galaxy character and should be the focus of the movie, and even outside that, the literal guardian of the cosmos as she is established in the movie, Rosalina is barely in this and doesn't get to do anything actually goddess-like. Her storybook lasts longer than her time in the movie. It makes me wonder why this couldn't have just been a Super Mario World movie instead, with the involvement of Yoshi and Bowser Jr., and even having a few Sunshine elements here and there, and saving the Galaxy adaptation for later down the line. Or even if it wanted to keep the Galaxy elements, why Peach couldn't have been the one kidnapped and Rosalina couldn't have been accompanying the brothers. At least then it would give her more to do and arguably more of an incentive for the characters to go on this journey than what was presented in the movie. Also, just gonna touch on this since marketing was just fine with spoiling it, there is zero grounds for Fox to be in this movie as a major character when his task could have been handled in 10 seconds by literally any space-related Mario character. And before anyone asks, I am of the opinion that a Smash movie is objectively an idea that is never going to work on a story level. This already feels like a child clinking some action figures together, which is amusing when a child does it. It is frustrating when it's an entire billion-dollar studio. And this honestly leads into a much bigger rant that has less to do with any specifics in this movie, and more so what this movie shows about Illumination's commitment to animation as a whole. There are multiple angles to approach this from, so I might as well just cover all of them. Illumination, and to a lesser extent Nintendo, has a very specific idea about the role of movies. Movies only exist to entertain in bright colors for 2 hours of an afternoon and nothing else. And in broad strokes, sure, that's not an entirely flawed concept. The whole idea of the very first movies in existence were as escapist fantasies from the economic hell of the time, where audiences could get lost in characters that struggled to get something. A good movie doesn't need an internal positive arc, nor does it need an epic scale of a story or an art house level thematic throughline. Even in some highly beloved pure comedies like Clue, The Cat Returns, or Phineas and Ferb, there's no kind of emotional masterpiece appeal like Pixar, but it does have fleshed out characters that have reasons for doing what they do, as well as a through line between scenes that makes sense. Why is this character this way? Why does this character do this and that? Why does this situation have to happen? What about this scene informs the characters and the story they're taking part in? Even down to the minute detail. You need to have reasons for why a scene is happening and why a character is motivated to participate in the scene. Illumination, among other studios, just does not get that. Most of their movies involve characters that act as singular personalities that happen upon situations for no reason at all, or just relying on cliche story tropes with insufficient setup and payoff in the case of the same movies. And the Galaxy movie is just as hollow in terms of character and story, which usually wouldn't be that surprising. I've grown to just ignore Illumination's tactics since they're kind of the only mainstream studio to really pull that off, but the fact that this was done to such a beloved game makes it pretty insulting. However you feel about the Galaxy movie, where you like it as it is, or dislike it, or don't really care much for it, at its core, it is objectively an awful adaptation. Part of a good adaptation isn't just, being good in the first place, it is also adapting the spirit of what it's based on. People can bitch and whine about poor production values or inconsistent details concerning lore or reinterpretations of characters, but at the end of the day, if it captures why those stories were so meaningful in the first place, it doesn't matter if it's one-to-one loyal or not. Heck, One Piece live action is a perfect example, because while some story details and character personalities have been switched around and changed, it keeps why One Piece is so beloved in the first place. It's goofy, cartoony fun, poking at corrupt government systems, and breathtaking, fantastic world building most of all. Certain details in the Galaxy movie could have worked. You could have Peach and Rosalina be born of Stardust, and you could bring all these characters along for this journey, but the movie doesn't use these elements to properly adapt the spirit of what makes Galaxy so special. The quiet, atmospheric, almost melancholic look at the universe, ever changing and intertwining in a cycle of light and dark and light again. Rosalina's grief and loneliness giving way to a compassionate and mothering personality, a sworn ally on Mario's journey. And none of the core appeal of what I just said gets translated because of Illumination's hollow storytelling, making way for shenanigans that just happen for the sake of it, and not even Mario-specific references this time. Rob being here makes sense. The joke is dragged out, as always for Illumination, but he's fun. But otherwise, again, why is Fox here? Did the Pikmin need to be on screen for more than 2 seconds? Why in the hell did someone catch Samus's ship in frame? Why are we setting aside what makes Galaxy so special in favor of stuff that doesn't even belong in the Mario universe? And when the point comes up that this is more so a generic Mario movie sequel and people shouldn't be hung up over how it adapts Galaxy, then why is the Galaxy name in the title? Why is Rosalina in the movie then if her role could have been replaced by a Shine Sprite or a battery or something? Is it name recognition? Is it fan service? Is it money? It's probably money. It's completely fine if people like the movie. I'm not discrediting that. I mean, there are movies I like that are certainly not well loved, but I've always thought that if you want to defend the honor of something, have it be for something worthwhile. And the points that keep coming up shows that this movie really isn't worth the vitriolic debate between critics and audiences. Whether it's Mario never needed a story to work, this is a movie, not a game. Movies don't have the interactivity that gets you to stick with a Mario game regardless of the story. It needs a cohesive plot and fleshed out characters in order to work. This is a celebration of all things Mario and all things Nintendo, and that's why we have these references to other games instead of of a proper adaptation of Galaxy specifically. My issue is that celebrating a franchise's legacy purely with references instead of a story that properly complements and comments on the franchise, like what Lego Movie and Spider-Verse did, rings definitely hollow, especially considering the last time that defense was brought up. And I think what may be my biggest hot take on this is that blaming kids for why these movies are so fast-paced, that kids somehow need ultra fast-paced nonsensical plots or else they're gonna get bored and not care, is an opinion that needs to die. Not only can I bring up examples like Winnie the Pooh, Bluey, mother flippin' Cars that have relatively slow pacing or at least low stimuli and are still massive icons of family media, we are also in a time where when some stories are methodical and slowing down the pace, trying to trust adult audiences to get what the story and characters are about, fandoms and general audiences have no idea what's going on because they cannot pay attention to anything that resembles subtlety because we've been conditioned by short form content and new media to only pay attention to what's on the surface and not critically think about what we are looking at. And executives are picking up on this and implementing this in big budget projects. This is not a kids film thing. This is a trend of big studios responding to how audiences now think about the media we consume. And apparently, we don't think a lot. And to imply that a trend so infantilizing can be defended as just a kids film thing is just as infantilizing, because childhood is such a formative stage of someone's life. If the stories they are told don't have something to grab onto, they're gonna pass by in flying colors and kids aren't gonna remember them when they grow up. I was a child, and while I did watch and enjoy a lot of lowbrow movies at the time, the ones that really stuck with me were ones that genuinely spoke to me, like WALL-E. And that's true for a lot of people. And repeating again that the one thing kids hate most in the world is that they hate being treated like they are stupid. They're gonna get bored if a movie treats them that way. Again, I was never asking for the Galaxy movie to be a masterpiece, but I held on to the hope that it could have something special to it. That Illumination would finally pull through and make something that could stick with kids for a while. But they didn't. And you want to know why? Illumination just can't do it. Now, I'm not as torn up about this as I was a few years back. As a business, they're taking care of their employees more than other studios with actual respectable outputs. But with that in mind, why are we still not taking risks? It's not like committing to Rosalina's tragedy would have driven off the millions of Nintendo fans that would have loved that anyways. But if someone tells me I have to turn my brain off in order to enjoy this movie, I will simply say, I don't like turning my brain off, because when I do, I feel empty inside. Competent enough in its technical filmmaking, but a massive disappointment for Galaxy's namesake and exacerbates its problem from the first movie. Yes, it is ultimately harmless, but it's reflective of a trend in the film industry that I grow tired of every waking moment of my days of living. A begrudging, mediocre 4 out of 10. Anyway, here are like 20-something things you can watch that are more interesting than this. Cosmic Princess Kaguya. Again, please, oh please, I need everyone to watch this. You and I Are Polar Opposites. Free Run Season 2. The 8th episode of Amazing Digital Circus with the Keyboard Smash title. These Project Prism Nation shorts that serve as pilots to potential shows. And while you're at it, A is for Angel and the other cartoons pilots. Ramparts of Ice on Netflix, Agents of the Four Seasons on Crunchyroll, which is by the same author as Violet Evergarden, which by the way, you should watch Violet Evergarden. WALL-E for the 100th time, because why not? The entire Irish mythology trilogy from Cartoon Saloon, including Secret of Kells, Son of the Sea, and Wolfwalkers. And also Breadwinner while you're at it. Lego movies, Spider-Verse, the Sonic movies. Look, Sonic movies mentioned, guys. This fan animation of Slay the Princess match 2, Would You Fall in Love with Me Again? Because it's so good, you guys. Also, play Slay the Princess, it is the best video game of all time. The Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson films that I watched for the first time recently. Seriously, Frodo and Sam mean everything to me. The entire Sound Euphonium franchise, including the best movie of all time, Liz and the Bluebird. And a silent voice in the colors within, just because Naoko Yamada's the GOAT. You better watch Jadugar this summer, along with Sparks of Tomorrow and Goodbye Lara if you can. The Owl House and The Ghost of Molly McGee are recent Disney TVA masterpieces you should watch, and Dead Talent Society while you're at it. Okay, that's a lot of things to watch. Anyway, that is a lot of words about the Mario Galaxy movie. Don't annoy or harass anyone for having a different opinion than you. I don't really like doing that in the first place. As always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching, and catch you next time.